All right, welcome along to another episode of the Deep In Coffee Hour. Happy New Year to you all. Today, on this very first episode of 2026, I am delighted to welcome to the stage Andrew Smith, our CEO, Commander-in-Chief, co-founder of Hivello, and all-round big brain to talk to us about everything that's happened in 2025 and 2026 and what we have to look forward to in 2026 from Hivello. Andrew, welcome.
Thanks.
How you doing?
Really excited to be here. It's always, I think, good at the start of the year. It feels fresh. It feels like a bit of a blank slate. And I think, for many of friends and listeners out there, it wasn't the best end in terms of the market at the end of last year. So I'm happy that it's we're starting the year fresh again, and we can forget about that little hiccup at the end of 2025.
Yeah, it's really brutal. Like if you spend as much time in the charts as some of us do, looking at price action and stuff, it's just it wasn't a great. Yeah, I don't think there were many people in crypto Twitter saying yes at the end of 2025.
Yeah,
I'm sure there were
what a year.
exceptions to the rule. But new year, new optimism. I will say this for the very, very, very last show of the year of the Deep in Coffee Hour, we got a ton of the founders and CEOs from various projects who we had interviewed over the year back on just for like 5 minutes to talk about questions I'm going to ask you today. The main two questions about 2025 and 2026. And I would say that the overarching theme was one of optimism. To summarize it, a lot of great things built, a lot of work to do in terms of revenue and on the money side of things. And I think a lot of projects are going to have tightened up their tokenomics or are going to tighten up the tokenomics. But anyways, we will. Yeah, if anybody hasn't checked that out already, it's up on everywhere: Spotify, YouTube, and if you really want to watch it on X, you can go back through our timeline. I guess to kick us off, what are you proud of us achieving in Hivello in 2025?
Yeah, it's a great question. I've been thinking about this a lot before coming on today, and I think what I'm sort of most proud of from 2025, and I have to say it was an absolutely massive year for us. It was the biggest. It was the biggest year in our history that we've been running. We started off the year with our token generation events, our TGE in February. We reached over 10 integrated deep ins into our application stack, and I think we got to 11 from 11 or 12 by the end of the year. We had an absolutely enormous amount of support behind us, and it was incredible. And this was really the kind of year for us to really hit the ground running hard. So I had a nice little few days break over Christmas and then a New Year, and ready to go again. But what getting back to my point, what I'm actually most proud of is the last thing that we actually released in our application, and that was our withdrawal feature. And I was talking to Carla in our marketing team earlier today, and I was saying this is probably the one feature that we made the least amount of kind of noise about. We really didn't do a big song and dance about the withdrawal feature, maybe compared to something like when we've done when we did our token generation event. When we did
airdrops,
airdrops, when we did campaigns to reward users with additional token incentives for different actions. Withdrawals was released just before Christmas. I think it was the 23rd. We pushed it live, and so for most users, they sort of would have hit their accounts on the 23rd, 24th. And why I'm sort of picking this over all of those other developments over the years, two reasons. One, it to me personally was an important promise that we made to our community and to our users, is to switch withdrawals on in 2025, and it was very, very important to me personally to make sure that we delivered on that commitment and that promise, and got it over the line in 2025. It was 6 days before the end of 2025, but it was 2025, and I think it was a big effort by our development team, technologists to get it live. But I wanted to make sure that we would deliver on that promise to our users. The second and probably more important reason why I think it's, to me, the most important is it closes the loop of our I guess user journey or application kind of journey. And we started off the year with we can you can onboard to Hivello really simply. You just download our app. We say I like to say it's like installing Spotify. You just download it, install it. It pops up. Add your credit account. Yeah, it's very, very simple. You don't need to do all of the onboarding transactions. You don't have to think about blockchains. You don't have to do any you don't have to sign anything. You don't have to create any keys. You don't have to think about gas and layer one, layer two. So we started off with, how do we just get that onto somebody's computer and get them onboarded. Then we moved to, how do we get deep-in nodes running on their computer. So that was the next step, is to actually get deep-ins running. Firstly one deep-in, and then two deep-ins, and then three deep-ins, and that was really our very early on. That was kind of our proof of concept. If we can prove that we can build an application that can run a few different deep-ins, then we'll keep going. We'll keep moving forward. Of course, they were generating tokens, but they weren't available to the user to actually be able to take a reward from that. Next comes
because it's a massively complex thing. Like, that's the thing I think people don't understand, is it's like we have deep-in networks across multiple different blockchains. There's when you're talking about withdrawing the tokens, you're talking about gas fees across multiple chains. You're talking about varying sized amounts. There could be small amounts. There could be so you have to have some sort of a control mechanism to say, well, is this all just going to get wasted in gas? How can we make that process as efficient as possible, so that there's as few steps in the gas payment and fee payment, in that architecture as possible. So it was a really, really complex problem to solve. Just in case anyone's there thinking, well, all I do is click a withdraw button on my on my wallet, and it's so simple. All exchanges have it and all the rest of it. This is this is new technology that was being built literally from the ground up. So
and I look, I think this is something that you see a lot of new not say companies, but projects is probably a better word to use, in the blockchain space. Is just the cross-chain and interoperability is just a whole section of projects in itself. And I don't think at least in the next sort of 3-4 years that will actually be able to have really simple interoperability between different networks, because as these as these kind of orchestrator or cross-chain orchestrators are working to get up to speed, to build something, to make it simple, to do it with today's kind of what's available today. Well, then there's already another blockchain, there's already another project that's already putting something innovative out now, and so it's going to be, I think, at least a few more years before it's as seamless to go from one chain to another. Like maybe we think of using, say, like a TransferWise and swapping currency from one to another and sending that. So I think this challenge will exist for at least a good few years to come, because literally it's a the way I see it is it's a treadmill. It's a catch up. It's running and trying to catch up, and as a big we're building that technology to get it. We've got more new things coming to then fill the pipeline up. But then so after that was our token generation event. That was an extremely intensive process going through.
Sure was.
Not just, I tend to, I guess, have a little bit of a bias thinking towards what's involved in the technology of that process. But actually, it was probably from a company, from a company's perspective, it was probably the most intense project that we've worked upon, across departments, from technology, not just technology, but marketing to finance to operations. There was a lot of. Sorry,
I was going to say you just can't understand what a TG is like. Maybe someone who's gone through an IPO or some sort of major financial launch. I just don't think launches, unless there's money involved, like I just don't think they have the same intensity as they do when there's money involved. So, and it doesn't matter if it's $1 million to a company or $1,000 to an individual or whatever. When you get into that like investment launch type window, it's just, I don't think there's very much more intense undertakings that you can go through. So it was five of them now.
I definitely underestimated. Like I say, I think I definitely underestimated not the technology, not the technical part of generating a token, but the everything else. And a lot of this has to do with, once again, very like old school kind of processes. So getting listed with, major exchanges. We listed on MEXC and Gate, and so to get listed, you go through a whole due diligence process, with their teams, and of course, what one exchange wants to know, the next exchange, will have a completely different set of questions. And it's not just technical. They want to know, how is it going to be, marketed? Do you have the right, legal opinions in place to show that you're not a security instead of a utility or whatever kind of token that you're presenting. How are you managing risk and treasury for the tokens that you are going to vest over time? So it really was like a very cross departments, cross company process, and I think pretty much everybody was involved in it to some degree or another.
Yeah, some of us were in it for months, some of us were in it for weeks, but it was very, like, around the time of the actual token launch itself. I mean, I think it was all hands on deck, sort of 12, 16 hours a day for probably the guts of 6 weeks, at least in marketing. I mean, marketing obviously has one of the bigger roles to play. Although I'm saying that probably is, I'm probably biased saying that because, literally.
I'm saying the same thing with technology. I'm thinking, well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're kind of naturally biased, I think, a little bit in our own ways. But I mean, if you'd asked me, going back to the start of the year, if you'd said hey Andrew, how much time do you think Neil in marketing are going to have to spend on this? I would have said, oh no, I'm probably not. There'll be some launch campaigns and things, but nothing too substantial. But I would have
Too
been
hectic.
completely wrong, very wrong on
Yeah,
that one. Yeah,
I know.
yeah,
We
yeah.
we were in Vietnam. Just a little personal anecdote. We were in Vietnam for it, and like I was there for 4 weeks, just right up in the lead up, and then a week or two after, and you think. I think a lot of times people think with the TG that when it actually launches that's the finish line. Like you're working towards the TG, so it's natural that you think once we get there we're done, but like you're not done. It's only starting, and so I had like I don't know 2 weeks in Vietnam before the launch, and then a week afterwards. And I was thinking to myself, well, this will be great because then I'll have a week of being able to turn this pasty skin a little bit browner, maybe spend a bit of time on the beach in this beautiful weather in like tropical paradise. And no, Vietnam had different plans in store for me. My entire family got, I don't know if we just drank water that brushed our teeth. I don't know what we did. I was eating healthy, so it might have been uncooked food. I don't know. But yeah, we all took turns having food poisoning, and it was not a pleasant. Yeah, two little kids with stuff coming out both ends. It's just not a great way to spend the last week of your trip. And I didn't get any. I feel like I was the whitest person on the plane coming home, and was not impressed by that part of it. I have to say. But
big shout out to Charlie for everything that she was able to help you with.
Yeah, she was amazing.
Yeah. He was the babysitter and the emergency nurse and running
3
the
o'clock
Vietnam
in the morning,
office,
bringing us to the hospital because like we can't stop puking. Person, yeah, she was incredible. So totally huge shout out to Charlie. She has my eternal gratitude for that. But it was but it was it was what it always is, right? It was intense. It was an absolute boiler room for for that period and for the 2 months before that, 2.5, 3 months before that. So that is what it is. People don't understand. Again, it's one of those weird things where you have to be on the inside to actually fully understand the what it's like. But anyway, we got through it. But what's really fascinating to me, just reminiscing about 2025, is that I mean we have a phenomenal team in Hivello. It was one of the things I was the most pumped about when I joined the team was these people are awesome people, good people, not just effective, hardworking, like honest people, which can be rare in the space. But with all of that, with everybody working their ass off, with all of the stuff that you just mentioned us going through to get listed on the exchanges and to have the thing on the same day at the same time, and to do all that and to get the coin market cap stuff sorted and the CoinGecko stuff sorted, like we worked our asses off. And we're talking I don't know, 40 people, 30 something people, for like 12 weeks. And we're all working crazy hours. And then like, I don't know, like 3 days after we launched, Trump starts talking about tariffs and an algorithm on rug check. Like, it's like,
I was about to mention rug.
You've got too much of a concentration of tokens in these wallets, which were our vesting contracts, by the way. Nobody had access to them. They were like tokens locked for the next, I don't know, 5 years or something. So yeah,
was that crashing of the Solana meme coin, like a pump fund. We unfortunately, even though we're not on the same sort of category of products, because we were launching, we launched our TGE. We did our TGE right about the same time as the Solana meme coin scams kind of like imploded, and so for those who don't aren't aware of the story, essentially, so you've got all these meme coins getting launched on Solana
through Pumped Up Fun.
Pumped Up Fun, which I remember the first time I opened Pumped Up Fun, I think my eyeballs exploded. Just looking at all the flashing lights and thinking, wow, this is yeah, this is crazy. But yeah,
One of the many mysteries of this space, honestly.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, as that kind of as that was kind of imploding, was around about the same time that we launched our token. And so essentially, what happens is people try and mitigate the risk of trading in these kind of meme coins, meme tokens, and so they'll write different algorithms and different kind of analysis kind of platforms to say, hey, which, like based on these kind of indicators, these coins here are scams, and these ones here are kind of, these ones here are good. But what they do is they just gathered all the coins that are listed on Solana, regardless of whether they were a meme coin or whether they were, like a deep in project.
Right.
And so we saw, I think probably I'd say probably the highest profile I think I saw on that rug check site that was marked as a scam was Helium, and it's just based upon a very rigid set of indicators that they've sort of come up with, which may be exactly correct for meme coins, but when you apply the same rules to a deep in project, it's you're looking at something going, well, it's saying it's a scam and it's unknown, and it's like, hang on a sec, Helium are really kicking goals this year. They signed deals with like tier one telco, telecommunications companies, cell phone companies like I think it was T-Mobile in the US, and so they're now providing coverage like 5G mobile coverage in North America, in the United States, and now Mexico.
But like, even if you take the algorithm piece out of it, like, and say, forget that bit. Like any project where you've invested millions to get to the point you're at, like which we had at that point, and I'm sure Helium have invested, an order of magnitude multiple of that. But like for any project, like a meme coin, like the Solana Pump.Fun type tokens, the founders of those, not all obviously, but for the most part, did some live streams and like talked about this cool thing that they were trying to do, and got a bunch of people who thought they were funny or interesting or whatever to follow them. They spent hours rather than millions of dollars in R&D and developer hours, and product design and marketing and all those things. So like, if you take the algorithm out of it and just go, look, these two things are not the same in any way, in any meaningful way, from the perspective of risk assessment, right? Which is what that rug check warning is supposed to be. It's like, how risky is this project that you're thinking about investing in? Is it like low risk, or is it highly risky that it's probably going to be a rug pull of some sort? Like the founder is probably going to use you. It's just going to steal from you, basically. It's just going to straight up rip you off. So yeah, I don't know. I just like, any kind of a common sense approach would say, like these are not the same thing. And, if you actually look at Hivello, like, it shouldn't be a rug check warning. However, it still took us a long time to get through to the right people in CoinMarketCap and in CoinGecko. Now, when we found the right people, I must say they were very quick to go, yeah, that's right. That's total nonsense. This is not providing a good, like we're not being fair here, and we're not providing a good user experience to our users, which is what they're primarily interested in. And they got rid of those warnings pretty much straight away. But we have to find the right people, and like these are companies that are designed to try and keep you away from finding the right people, because they don't really want to have to deal with that on a day-to-day basis. It's too granular, and they don't have the size teams to be able to manage, the amount of crypto projects and stuff like that. I just, they'd have to start a whole department that just, the common sense department, maybe they could call it.
Well, yeah.
So
anyway, that was, I guess, thankfully. It was those are things that that you can't really plan for in terms of time and resource, and really do, every hour that we spent on that was, an hour that wasn't spent developing something for our users, or making something more efficient, or making something quicker, or adding another feature, and so it just takes it just takes from something else, is where those resources have to come from, and yeah. But like you said, we got through it in the end. But yeah, it's a crazy space that we're in.
It really is, and it's the bit that I struggle with most is I really heavily believe in meritocracy, and like work hard, you'll get there, and all that kind of stuff. But you're essentially, like, I sometimes liken it to being trapped in a room with a 10-ton gorilla, basically, when in crypto, because there's just so many factors that are just so completely outside of your control that there's just nothing you can do about. So yeah, it can be really tough like that. But anyways, onwards and upwards. Yeah. Is there anything else from 2025 you want to talk about, or should we start?
Also, yeah, I mean, just to finish off. So after launching the token, we were then able to, so we, like I said, then we've built another piece. So now we've got onboarding. Now we've got running deep in nodes on your device. They're generating deep in tokens, but you're not able to actually do anything with them. Then we've launched our token in February, and so we're able to start offering ecosystem incentives, essentially to people, rewarding I guess good behaviors, and community involvement with Hivello token. But you still weren't able to, I guess, make use of the deep in tokens that you've been generating yet. And finally, the withdrawal part was closing that whole loop. So by adding withdrawal, we're now able to onboard somebody, to run different deep in applications in parallel at the same, essentially in parallel at the same time. Those are earning different deep in tokens
on different chains,
and that's then getting converted to Hivello, and then you're getting paid out, and you can withdraw it in Hivello. So it really, I guess, like I said, closes. I call it closing the loop, really, of our product, by actually having the full end to end from starting to earning to withdrawing, and that was, like I said before, I think it was very important to me that we kept our promise of getting this into the hands of our users by 2025, and we were able to meet that promise.
Yeah, me too. I'm super happy that we got there. And I had nothing but confidence that we would, because it's definitely a fan favorite in terms of the community, and when I'm wanting to see that, and it makes sense as well, because if you join the community and you're a fresh face, it's important to know that you can and will get your rewards for the uptime, because the reality is most people are quite cynical in this space, and they've got good reason to be. So it's just a vote of confidence that there is a process in place and it works, and that'll happen quarterly now for the next while, until the deep in earnings kick up a notch and people start earning. Like, we've no interest in holding vast quantities of tokens, but it's just there is a point at which there's a percentage of the community, of all of our node runners, where it needs to be over a certain amount for it to make sense to actually to kick off a withdrawal process. So once that gets to the point where it makes sense to do it every month because of how much people are earning, happy days, we will do it every month. Or we'll get to
we'll definitely keep working on it just to make it more efficient. Right, like you say, right now it's our first run was essentially a combination of building the technology to do it, and also lots of old-fashioned manual checks, making sure balances are going to be correct before running and after running. And the more that we can put this on chain and and run it
Right.
through, like different smart contracts, etc. The quicker we'll be able to make that process for the users, and we'll just keep iterating and essentially making it more and more efficient, as long as it makes economical sense for the user. So, like you're saying, you don't want to spend 10 cents worth of a token to withdraw 2 cents worth of
15 cents. Yeah.
It has to make some kind of economic sense. And I think maybe just to kind of give you an idea now, like of the kind of numbers that in this first run, there was about 7,000 users that were able to withdraw, and from that 7,000, essentially starts with about 21,000 individual nodes. So it could be one person running 3 nodes on their computer, or it could be 3 people running 1 node. But essentially, there's about 21,000 nodes, and that sort of filtered down to about 7,000 unique users. And from that 7,000 group of 7,000 users, we're able to essentially put a, let me just check my notes here because I want to make sure I get this correct. It was about 801 transactions, on-chain transactions, by batching these, batching the withdrawal procedures to the users. So we started off with essentially 21,000 wallets and all of the different tokens and gas and all the other kind of complexities, and essentially we're able to squeeze that down into just 800 on-chain tokens, which is 800 on-chain transactions, which was really, in terms of gas usage on Solana, like extremely tiny in terms of the amount of gas that has to be paid. And so we'll keep going at
compared
it
to what it could have been. Compared to what it would have been, had everybody just had a withdrawal button that they could click. So I think we're going to get there with the withdrawal button that you can click for everybody, so it's self-directed. But the income levels have to improve from each of the DPINs that we're aggregating. That's my read on it anyway.
And look, I think that's the difference. I guess there's sort of push and pull. This was a push. We pushed out to the wallets in bulk, and because of that, we're able to batch them up ourselves into batches of user wallets in each transaction. What many users prefer is the pull method, which is like I want to click withdraw, and then I expect to see a transaction into my wallet, and that of course is perfectly fine, and a lot of maybe perhaps more users actually prefer that. But the downside of that is if you're going to pull it from if you're going to pull that transaction, then you're going to have to pay the gas for you just to pull, to consume that, a bit of compute on chain. If we don't get to, share that, share that with other users. So, that's I guess the pros and the cons, or the ups, the upsides and the downsides of the push versus pull.
Right. Do you want to talk about 2026 and where we're going? Or like what you're looking forward to maybe in 2026, and then we'll dive into some questions from the community that we gathered beforehand. I have some questions I can ask.
Yeah, sure. So one thing that we internally refer to when we're talking about kind of our next iteration is that Hivello 3, and actually Neil, you're the one who came up with Hivello 3, if I'm not mistaken.
I did. That was
did you?
Brilliance. No, I don't know. I honestly don't know who came up with it. It's not that it matters. It's fantastic.
Okay. Well,
no. I think, Well, I mean, I just synthesized what all of the executive committee were talking about in terms of the vision and where they saw us going. And I mean, I think if you if you look at 2025 and you look at our goal, our mission, which is to always to try and get to a minimum of $10 a month for everybody, the average user, not just like, so anyone with the old laptop, not somebody with a gaming rig that's like got it's fresh off the production line and has the latest consumer grade NVIDIA card in it. Yeah, I just think when you consider all of those factors, that's kind of where it came from. But sorry, I didn't mean to jump in. You
No, I
steal your
sorry,
thunder.
I apologize.
Go
I
for
threw
it.
that to you, thinking there was a really a lot of inspiration behind that, but I apologize. I think my memory on that one is amiss. What our next iteration of Velo 3 essentially at its core is being able to offer the same essential product that we offer today, which is the aggregation of different deep in nodes, but giving users the choice if they want to use a hosted version. So, for example, a GPU hosted version in a data center. So, right now we've always taken the position that we are. Our software is desktop software. It's built for an individual to install on their on their Windows machine or their Mac, and we do have some Linux users as well. And it's probably the number one question that we get from users outside of tokens and airdrops and Wenmoon and all those kind of things. But the one kind of technical question we get more than anything else is like, when can I get a Linux server version that I can run? And we've always said like that we're not offering that at the moment. It's something that we will consider later on, but it's not something that we were focusing on. What our what we're working towards in 2026 is being able to give users that perhaps don't have technology at home, which is suitable for deep-ins, or they do have a gaming machine, but they want to use it to game and don't want to use it for running a different kind of deep-in node. But giving them the ability to essentially rent, like you rent a server in a data center, is rent a node that Hivello will provision and install and maintain and run on your behalf. Also, where this kind of spreads out a little bit further is what we're seeing with some of particularly the GPU kind of opportunities in Deepin, right? At the moment, some of the most interesting opportunities have been unfortunately kind of locked away to I'll use the word users, but have been kind of locked away to users that have like NVIDIA data center GPUs, like the H100s, H200, A100. These essentially the type of equipment that you can't, you or I can't buy. Basically, essentially, it's not the consumer grade equipment. It's data center equipment. It runs on a whole different system to how the one that sits in your machine, and
extraordinarily expensive as well. I think they're £20.
They're really expensive. Yeah, absolutely expensive. And the difference is I guess to at a kind of higher level. I don't want to get too technical because I don't want people to fall asleep on me. But the main kind of difference is that the NVIDIA, like you buy an RTX 4090. That's for you, for your computer. It's going to use all as much of that power as you ask it to use, and you can essentially do run one operating system at one time with that one card. What the data center NVIDIA GPUs, you're actually able to sort of, I guess, like segment them, start to sort of separate them into individual units, and the idea, of course, if for those people that have some sort of experience with like cloud based systems like AWS, Google Cloud, essentially, you have a one server and you carve a little bit of each of the available resource, and you can carve it up and sell it to say 20 or 30 different customers but you're literally on one machine. The same thing occurs with the GPUs. You can't do it on the consumer grade equipment. It's not built for, it's just not built for that purpose. It's built with the idea that you want to play Fortnite or Roblox or whatever it is that you're playing at. But with a in a data center environment, in the cloud compute world that we live in today, it's all about someone wants to use 100% of this card, so great, you can do that. No, but if you've got somebody who only needs a small portion, then we want to be able to sell that portion off and not have it just sitting there latent in inventory. So what we're looking to achieve is essentially take the same data center GPUs and have a product that users can either rent the entire block or just one portion of that, and share in the rewards that these GPUs are able to actually provide.
So absolutely, and I think it opens up a whole range of other possibilities as well, right? When we do that, because if we have GPU metal, basically, if we have hardware that can be used for anything with GPU mining, so we're just sort of, I suppose, we're going up or down the vertical a little bit in terms of being able to provide more than just the application. So you'll also be able to share in that GPU power and it could be for anything. It could be for Bitcoin mining, or it could be for running Hivello nodes, or Akash or something else in the future. So yeah, it's just a slightly different model, but it's an and, not an or. So we're not changing what we're doing. It's just we're adding new ways to earn with Hivello 3. So
and that's probably another. I mean, that's something that you just touched on there with Bitcoin. Is we're also looking to what are the other blockchain? I call it blockchain adjacent. What are the other kind of blockchain adjacent opportunities today we haven't considered, because we focused specifically on Deepin, but what are the kind of blockchain adjacent opportunities that the same equipment can be taking advantage of, if there's a downturn, let's say, in the demand for different Deepin compute. Can we take that and use it for a different kind of purpose?
Yeah. So this is kind of what we're talking about at the moment. Thank you, Crypto Hunter. Whisper me. Yeah. So I guess, I've kind of talked about this a little bit, I think, before, but maybe I jump into just a quick overview of how the sort of the next evolution is. What I keep saying to people is, if there's an income opportunity for the average person, where we can, with our dashboard, with our software, with the application, our ecosystem, where we can aggregate that and orchestrate it, whether that's so that they can contribute whatever you have. So if it's that you have time, for example, or if you have that you can put that time into doing something, whether it's social activities or various work. It could be AI labeling, for example. Now, these are down the road a bit, but the vision is that whatever you have to contribute, you can get a return from that. So with the cloud mining and the GPUs, when we looked at our network, we don't have we have an amount. There are gamers definitely that are running Hivello nodes, but it's not like 50% of our network. And so we needed to find a way to try and serve everybody, which is kind of always our thing, right? We're always looking at like what would benefit the largest amount of node runners that we have at the moment. What's the next thing that we should do? At any rate, having a higher powered GPU opportunity makes a lot of sense given the current opportunities in the market. To be frank, it's all about GPU mining at the moment. GPU, whatever the mining. I'm using the term mining, but maybe that's not the right term.
We sort of use this interoperable with like I use term like AI like workloads these days is what I generally refer to as like GPU workloads.
That's a better term, actually. Yeah. But in any case,
but essentially, how we understand it, how we understand it in the blockchain space is we refer to mining as being, I guess, originally as a proof of work.
Right.
So that in the same way that we talk about, taping a television show because you used to literally tape it on tape. So VHS tape or tape, when we use that term, but it still has its, it doesn't make technologies that we've moved along with technology, but it still refers to that kind of original process of I'm doing some bit of work, either trying to solve something or to create something or to confirm something or verify something, and in return I'm going to be rewarded with a token or some other kind of portion of value. That's so I completely kind of get it. And what I was saying before about what are the trends we're kind of seeing is we're definitely seeing a bias to these and not across the board, by the way. But what we're seeing a bias in terms of demand for specifically the data center GPUs. There's just exactly. I think, look, it's probably a combination of a couple of things. One is that in the minds of, I think, of people, or in the minds of somebody who's wanting to rent some compute. If it's a data center GPU, then it's going to be available 24/7 in a data center with power and connection. If it's a consumer grade GPU, then there's less control over the power, the availability, the whatnot. So I think that there's a kind of a bias for one over the other. But in my experience, there's the right deep in projects at the moment are countering that I guess bias by maybe you have to stake some tokens to be available on the network, or they're giving a rating, over the last 30 days, what's the uptime been, what's the downtime been? So it gives people the it's sort of, it's the mitigating factors of yes, it's somebody's computer at home, but it doesn't mean that it's worse than the same equipment in a data center.
Because I think if you think about that operationally, like they have to make sure that they have a quality of. They can't have, in much the same way you can't have an internet connection. Like one of the most frustrating things in the world is an internet connection that's like up and down the whole time. Like where a web page loads quickly, and then the next time you click on something, like it just doesn't load, it just times out or something like that. And then you click refresh and it loads, and then the next time it times out. Like for deep in networks, they can't have that either, right? Which is what I think you're talking about, where someone has a laptop and they're running the node in the background, they just shut it because they need to go home, and they were midway through processing a job and a GPU workload of some sort, and it just, pardon the language, F's the job. So yeah, they need to guarantee a level of quality, I suppose, as well, consistency, and they're thinking about ways to try and implement things to solve for that. But yeah,
Yeah, so essentially, by but our kind of view on it is, um, instead of trying to fight against this, is how can we actually expand our product to include the data center GPU varieties as well, and it will essentially be up to our users if they want to rent a GPU, a hosted GPU, cloud mining GPU. That choice will then be available to them. If they don't, absolutely, that's also their choice. But it's essentially a same core products, but in a data center instead of in your house.
Right. And yeah, and I think so. Where the 3 comes from, obviously, is just it's the third evolution of Hivello. But it's also because we've really expanded the vision as well, right? It's not just about aggregating and orchestrating deepins anymore. It's kind of much more about like an income companion is kind of the way that we've been sort of talking about it. So really, I think I can speak for most of, if not all, the executive committee in Hivello when I say that, like, most of us want to create a product where it's like, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what stage of your Web3 journey. First of all, you don't need to be on a Web3 journey. It should be completely opaque to the world of Web3. You don't, in much the same way, you don't need to know what's happening in your car when you drive it. You just drive it. You just know how to use it. You do that when you need to, and the rest of the time you let other people look after the rest. So in much the same way, whether you're just starting out, whether you've got an old laptop and very little cash, but you have power in your house or whatever, or a solar panel on your roof, I don't know. You can just turn it on, start to earn from DPIN, and then take that and put it into something else. Take those rewards instead of taking them out and buying clothes with them or something. Take them and put them into, buy a little chunk of one of the GPU hives once they're up and running, so that that'll mine Bitcoin for you for the next 2 years when you pay for it. And then you can take that and you can leverage it into something else. And then maybe you've got a bit of time. Maybe you decide, you know what I could do? I can look at pictures and tell AI what it is. So I'll get this labeling thing going. Or, there's this campaign in the kind of buzz to earn thing where I can use social media. I can just be on Twitter all day, tweeting about various projects and try and and earn some DPIN tokens,
like what like questing is today.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah,
exactly. So the goal there is just to sort of, it doesn't matter where you are or what you have to contribute. There'll be something for you in Hivello, and again, this is very big picture stuff. Like, this 5-year plan, not 2026 plan, just in case anybody's getting too excited. I think, I don't know, timelines wise, we're still, obviously we're midway through this evolution. We will, like, in the first quarter of this year, you're going to see a lot more stuff come out about the whats and the whens and the wheres. But I'm expecting our branding updates and things like that to happen Q1. I think we may have beta. We may have some beta. I don't know. Maybe you know better than I do on the GPU side of things. Like with the data center side, when that's going to launch. I don't think we don't have exact dates or anything like that. But
no, and we'll talk about that in the we'll definitely be delivering information as once we're confident that it's realistic and reasonable, and we'll start getting that information out.
But it's all being worked on at the moment. So you're going to see a lot of things in 2026, I think, around this, all going to plan at least. So will we take a few questions? It's already 5 past the hour. I don't know if you're do you still have time to talk for a little while longer, or do you need to jump off?
No, I do. Yeah.
Okay, so we answered that. Let me just see here.
Just I've been talking too much. I've got to have a glass of water.
Take a drink. Take a sip of coffee. You see, you could have pretended that was coffee.
Yeah, I can pretend it's coffee. Yeah, it is. It's just water, though,
On
unfortunately.
on the coffee hour, it's not the water hour, Andrew. Come on.
Well, it's 4 p.m. It's 4 p.m. here. I think if I had a coffee right now, I might not sleep tonight. But
yeah.
Yeah.
So you're back in Europe.
Yeah.
All right. So someone asked, what are the core differences between Hivello 2 and 3? Will we need to do anything special to migrate or update our existing setups? So
no, I mean, essentially, you can, if you're running Hivello on your, if you've got a home computer, you're running it on right now. It's just a choice whether you want to rent one in a data center as well. You could keep your existing one at home and rent one in a data center, so you've got two. You could get rid of your one at home and use that for something else and only rent the data center one, or you could just stay with your one at home. I think it's the choice is kind of yours, really. It's
right.
It's no it's not a when we say version 3, it's not a let's say yeah, exactly. It's not you need to migrate everything to start all over again. It's just more. It's more about actually adding that option onto the existing, home desktop version. So there's no obligation to do it. It's completely up to our users. Some will find, I think, that maybe they get better results in a data center, and so it's maybe a preference to them. But yeah, there's nothing that users will have to do per se. And if there was, we'll make sure that it's very, very well communicated before. But for existing users, no, there won't be any kind of impact.
Well, simplicity is our thing, right? Like radical simplicity.
Yeah, exactly.
So, like, we're never going to be like, okay, now you have to download like this Linux variant and run a virtual machine. And look, at some point you'll be prompted to download an update to your home node, and that'll be your download to earn. We're calling that download to earn in terms of the various different income streams. But I think the other income streams, it sounds like, from what I've seen anyway of the initial UI mockups and stuff like that, it'll just be extra. There'll be extra menu items, extra features in there. I imagine a world where at some point I'll have like 50 different nodes running different things. Like, so maybe I'll have one that's running on my own. So when I log into my dashboard, I'll see the nodes that I'm running on my own machines here at home in my office. But I'll also be able to see all the GPU hives that are there. So it could be maybe I'll be mining for Bitcoin, Litecoin, providing GPU workloads to Nasana, to Akash, et cetera. I don't know. I'm just using Akash because I know that they're quite a good one at the moment. But there's lots and lots. And I think as Deepin evolves and things become more and more profitable, what you will see once we have this infrastructure in place is that we just add more and more things that are profitable, because it'll actually be, in a way, it's a lot more straightforward, for us to launch, as like a single instance of something that's just mining one thing, as opposed to like aggregating lots of things into one node. And because it's only going to be doing one thing, we can configure it to work really well with that one thing and be highly optimized for that thing that it's working with. And that's the kind of my vision of the future and what I'm really excited about, like at a personal level as well as a professional level, because I feel like there's a really, really good I hate using the word democratization, but democratization of wealth. It's just such a cliche now, even though really what it means and is a really awesome thing, not in a socialist way, in a kind of a, there's no need for Jeff to be making all of the money. I mean, some of us could also contribute and earn some money. So yeah, but yeah, nothing to do. You don't have to do anything. Just keep running your node, and at some point you'll have new options, basically. GPU Hive seems exciting. Can you break down what this feature actually does and how we as a node runners will profit from it? Well, again, like you have to choose it and you'll have to contribute fiat. So you'll have to, so basically everybody who, it's kind of like, individually, none of us are going to start running a H100. Well, I speak for myself. I don't know about Andrew. He could have a H100 in his basement. Who knows?
But, yeah, I don't think so.
For the average man, we're not running H100s, but if we could, it would definitely be something that would be worthwhile. So how can we, Hivello, take all of our node runners and anybody who might be interested in using us as a service and collectively, essentially fund the cost of that and benefit from the rewards from that. So that's kind of the thinking, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's not. Just lost the question. Sorry. It's here is up on the screen.
How will the node runners profit from the GPU hives? I mean, you're gonna have to opt for it, and you're gonna have to pay an amount, but it could be $50 a month, and it could be $50 for 1 month. It just depends on what you want to get out of the back of it, and the user interface will tell you kind of. I mean, obviously, we can't promise returns because we don't know. We can make some educated guesswork based on previous performance and that kind of thing. But in particular with DPIN, it's a bit harder to gauge than it would be, say, with Bitcoin, where with Bitcoin, it's very well established what you can get if you run, such and such an amount of hash power for an amount of time, you're going to get X out of the back of it. And we can also say that if you had done that for the last, like, let's say you pay your $50 and you get it for 2 years, we can also say, well, if you'd done that 2 years ago for the last 2 years, this is what it would be worth roughly today. So you can kind of make some sort of a educated guess, let's say.
Yeah, it's the irony of the situation is that we say that Bitcoin has become the stable one when, if we go back, I remember it was considered completely outrageous because it was so volatile and no one would ever consider getting involved. But now we sort of see it as the stable part of the, with the exception of stable coins.
Yeah. So I think that answers that. Then someone asked, what GPU hardware requirements are needed for GPU hives? Will it work on mid-range gaming GPUs or only high-end cards? I think there's a bit of confusion there about how that GPU hives thing works. We're totally taking care of the hardware. You pay us, and essentially you get a piece of the pie. That's basically how it works. So the cost of the hardware gets divided into chunks, and those chunks can be bought, basically. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just think of renting, it's the same thing. It's whether renting a machine in a data center versus using your machine at home that you already
yeah, this is actually a good question. Will the GPU hives, will those earnings be paid in HVLO or the native token of the protocols we're supporting? Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah, so look, it's a good question. We don't have a solid answer for that right now, but I think you'll always be able to get Hivello token as an option. That's our primary kind of aggregating token. That's what we've done with this withdrawal process. So part of running an array of different nodes in a configuration, kind of what Neil's talking about now, where you get a stack of different nodes and put them all together. Part of what we're trying to achieve is to be able to aggregate those transactions across different chains and pay it out into one for you, so that you don't have to worry about the gas and the bridging and all the other kinds of events that go on as part of combining that all together. So I think it's sort of, at this stage we don't have a solid, I don't have a definitive answer, I should say, to you, but Hivello token will always be an
It's our
option.
ecosystem fuel, right?
Exactly.
It's the thing that makes our ecosystem work. So, but I would say that we will always be very clear about that. When it comes to us taking fiat or stables or whatever way you pay for your piece of the pie with the GPU hives, I think it's important that, for me anyway, it's important that it's not just me actually, for the entire team, I know that it's important that if you're paying in fiat, that we honor that with, making sure that you have the option to get it out in whatever. So for example, if it's a Hivello node running in the data center, that's one thing that would probably, I would guess, fall into a similar structure to the download to earn, but it'll say anyway, but when you sign up, if it's Bitcoin mining, for example, you'll probably be paid in Bitcoin, because I feel like people want to hold the Bitcoin to turn it into, because of the way that it's so volatile, but continually goes up. There's just a different risk calculation with that than there would be with, say, some of the deep in tokens that are very, very early still. So yeah, so we don't have a solid answer just yet, but more on that coming soon. And yeah, certainly we're going to be very, very transparent about how that works ahead of you ever giving us money, fiat or stables. If I'm already running multiple DeepIn networks on my existing rig, will adding GPU hives help optimize my earnings further, or will it compete with my current earnings? Well, that's a quick answer, I think.
Sorry, Neil. You just dropped out.
Oh, sorry. I just realized I'm sitting farther away from my microphone than I was before, so I can see the other side of my screen. If I'm already running multiple DeepIn networks on my existing rig, will adding the GPU hives help optimize my earnings further, or will it compete with my current earnings? It won't compete.
No. They're essentially, yeah.
Okay. So phase 1 of withdrawals just launched, and users are getting HVLO into their in-app wallets, but Hivello is keeping a 20% fee. Can you explain the reasoning behind this? Is that permanent or temporary?
Is that permanent or temporary? Well, look, there's essentially always going to be a contribution that goes to the network to be able to essentially pay for the gas, pay for the software development. That 20% is essentially funding the ecosystem,
Keeps the lights on.
development. Yeah, a lot of it is literally the on-chain payments, gas, rent, all these kinds of
right
costs that are involved in affecting transactions. In terms of
remembering, Hivello's free as well, though, right?
Actually, I mean, yeah, but of course, yeah. That is, we don't charge anything, and so I always like to say that it's in our interests to ensure that our users are generating the most return possible, because if our users aren't generating a good return, then our 20% of if we use 20% in this example, 20% of nothing is still nothing.
Yeah.
So look,
we're not making
at the
money
moment
at all as a company.
Well, that's right, and so if we continue to keep freemium as the option, or as the primary kind of model, then there'll always be some kind of network fee to fund the network. So whether it goes up or down or whatnot, we'd always be very transparent ahead of time for making these kind of changes. But I think it's reasonable to expect some some contribution back to the network for.
Of course it is. Yeah, absolutely is. I mean, we have to pay somehow for like keeping the lights on, literally. Yeah, look, I think just as well, just for some insight for everybody, at the start of 2025, the fee was 30%. We were keeping 30%, and it may go back to 30% at some point, I think, in the future, once we introduce the memberships and the various tiers to where you're able to like lock up HVLO and stuff like that to retain a higher amount of the earnings. But a decision was made by the team that we wanted to be able to give, just because of the performance of DeepIn as a whole, as a sector, and the networks that we've integrated with. But it's not just the networks that we've integrated it with, in as far as I can tell, and that's having interviewed, I don't know, 80 plus people working at the highest levels in the space this year. The demand just isn't there yet. I think it's going to get there. I really do believe that. But maybe 2026 is the year for that. But certainly in 2025, it wasn't. And, so the decision was made to reduce that to 20%. Yeah. And I think that's just a kind of, I suppose it's just for me, that was a sign of the quality of the people making those decisions, because it could have been 30%, and that would have kicked out a bunch of people. I suspect that would have kicked a bunch of people below the line of being included in the withdrawal, the last run. Obviously, their earnings are still there. You don't lose your earnings when the withdrawal happens if you're not included. It's just you didn't quite meet the threshold criteria to be part of the withdrawal. So maybe next time, depending on how well your node does. But yeah, absolutely. I think it's a very reasonable fee for the network to keep everything going. We'll just do one more question, I think, because we're coming up to the half hour. Let me just see if there's a good one here with withdrawals. Funny. Yeah, maybe this is a good one. Question 21. Some users claim their earnings do not match the dashboard estimates. Now that withdrawals are live, can we expect more transparency on how these earnings are calculated? So yeah, do you want to take that, or?
Good. Yeah, I'll look at. Yeah, I'm happy to take it. It's a good question. I think one of the difficult. I put this. We provide essentially real time data on earnings, and we give you two values essentially. We give you the value in the token that you've been earning, and we give you an equivalent in US dollars as to what the value of that token. Otherwise, you might be earning 4 or 5 or 6 different tokens, and we're trying to make it as easy as possible, so you don't have to think, oh, what's the price of this token versus this one and this one. Just for the like you'd see in if you've got an account at an exchange, if you look at your portfolio or wallet or whichever they call it in the different platforms, here's a list of what you've got, and here's how much of that token you've got, and here's the equivalent in USD or euro or whatever for that. So it's a double-edged sword, really, because it makes it very quick and easy for you to get straight away an understanding of what your what's essentially your portfolio, the value in the tokens that you've earned. And I think it's kind of natural for us to think about it like that. Is okay, I've earned 10 of these tokens, and these tokens are worth $1 each, so therefore I've earned $10. So I think it's an essential part of the UI to be able to display this. The downside, though, is that that value, if the value of the token decreases from the last time that you looked at or the last time that you remember it, then you will suddenly see, oh well, 10 minutes ago I had $10 in my wallet. Now I've only got $9. There's essentially a problem there. That's the downside of doing real time USD conversions. To make it, to be the most accurate, we would take the US dollar equivalent away, and so you're only seeing the native token balances, and it should only be going up. But I think that comes at the downside of making it more difficult for people to try and get an understanding of where their position is. The other issue with real time conversions between the native token and the US dollar equivalent is, the RPC nodes and the nodes that are actually that we connect to on the different networks. They do sometimes fail for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. So it may come back with zero. You might look at looking at your dashboard and it says I've earned 10 tokens now, and then you come back tomorrow and you click refresh, and it happens to be at a time when one of our RPC node providers is just offline for a couple of minutes, or there's congestion on the network that you're running on, and so suddenly the value either shows zero or some kind of value which doesn't equate to what you already had. So we're always trying to find that balance between being able to give you a good understanding of what you're earning versus, I guess, like over engineering something which can show you a value and then all the values in the previous history and whatnot. But for the most part, we see that it's generally either a very quick or very sudden drop in value of one of the underlying tokens, or it could be a congestion on the network or another kind of RPC issue. It's most of the times it's not like a software kind of issue at our end. It's usually an external kind of factor. Although I always encourage people to report if they see something. Let us know so we can look into it. Yeah.
That's at a very technical level, but I mean also at a just reality kind of market moving level. You're talking about having 5 or 6 different tokens. They're all very volatile tokens. So it's not like you're earning US dollars, the value's there in US dollars, but it's that USD value is extraordinarily volatile relative to the volatility of a US dollar. So if it bounces around a lot, it could be that the underlying DeepIn tokens themselves are experiencing some unusual price action. And that's very much a moving target for every single one of those. So there's a sort of an amplifying effect when you've got 4 or 5 of them. Anyways, I think that covers that. And I think we have answered a lot of questions today. So thank you, Andrew, for coming and sharing your time and your wisdom. It's great listen, always good to have a chat, especially reminiscing. Love looking back at the past and just learning, I suppose. So thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you, all of you who are tuned in to another episode of the DeepIn Coffee Hour. We will be back again next week. More information on that next week. I think our show is on Wednesday instead of Tuesday. We've had to move it just for next week, but then we'll return to Tuesdays again after that. But in any case, thanks again, Andrew. Thank you, all of you, for tuning in to the DeepIn Coffee Hour. We'll be back again next week. Until then, be kind to each other out there. Take care.